Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Confess, Revenge at All Costs, out January 21st on Rexius Records. This album has 11 tracks, 50 minutes in length, and this is the band's third full-length studio album. They are an Iranian-Norwegian groove metal band. Now, if you don't know the background of this band, they've been chased out of Iran due to their music, to their views, to their political views. They were charged with being Satanists. They'd received a lengthy prison term. And they finally made it out of the country, and they're able to put this record together and to continue to play the music that they love and continue to carry the flag of heavy metal, if you will, regardless of the costs that were associated with it. The intro track on this record, using news clips, really tells that story well and really allows the listener to understand exactly what you're getting into. It gives you a little bit of a backdrop of what happened before and what drove the creation of this album. Once you make it past that song, the record is super connected. It has ebbs and flows, feels very dynamic. It doesn't feel repetitive at any point in time. It's a record that has great mobility, and from that mobility you get great playability. 11 songs, 50 minutes, it doesn't feel that way. It feels like a much shorter album because it always comes at the listener with a lot of intensity, a lot of aggression, moving really well and keeping the listener engaged by always changing a little bit of the recipe while keeping all of the same elements alive and well throughout all 11 songs. Once you get into the soundscape, I feel like the sound here could have been slightly better. It needs some better mixing behind it in order for you to get the full brunt of the heaviness and of the grooviness that this band can put together. Overall, it feels raw. It feels almost like a live recording. It doesn't have depth and it doesn't have texture. And when you take depth and texture out of the sound overall starts to feel a little bit flat. It loses a little bit of its heaviness, it loses a little bit of its strength, and it definitely loses a little bit of the aggression that it has. And that hurts this album because this is an album that's really built on intensity and aggression. So you have to make sure that those two elements are alive and well throughout the entire record, and they jump into the forefront so that the songs have as much of an impact as possible. The guitars are very groovy, and that grooviness creates some volume, it creates some depth, definitely creating some aggression, but it's not enough to make the overall sound feel as compact as it could have been. The guitars are fine. I love the drive, I love the force, and I love how much driven this album is. This record really lives off of the guitars. They are the motor, they are the fuel, they are the driver of the experience. But the drums and bass play more of a secondary role, and I felt like if they were a little bit more in the forefront, if they pushed together a little bit more, they would create a much higher impact on this album. They would give the record the necessary depth and definitely the necessary texture. There are some songs on this album that while the drums feel powerful, they don't feel substantial. They feel a little bit flat, and the bass almost disappears. So you need those two elements to have more of a consistency throughout the entire record in order for the guitars and the groove that they have glue with those two elements and allow the songs and allow the sound overall to be big, to be powerful, to be robust. The vocals are perfect. I really like the aggression, I really like the intensity, and I really like the representation of the lyrics and that vocal style and that approach and that tone. It comes together perfectly. So the vocals are super consistent from beginning all the way to the end. They don't really fluctuate that much. They don't really change their DNA. They don't really change their shape, but they allow the album to have that sense of direct approach, and you really feel the lyrics coming to life, not just with the tone, but with the aggression and style that you get on the vocals on this record. Overall, this is a very raw sounding album. It has great attributes because it has that drive, it has that sense of direction from beginning to end. It doesn't feel repetitive. The guitar sound is phenomenal, and it's something that the listener can definitely gravitate to. I could understand a little bit of the rawness in terms of the topics and in terms of where they're coming from and the message that they're trying to deliver. But just because you want to create a raw sound, in order for the lyrics and the feelings and the emotions that the album carries to be a little bit more at the surface, you don't have to take away from the overall depth and texture of the soundscape. So that to me is where they have to refine their elements a little bit better for the next record to have a more complete look, a more complete feel, a more complete approach. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Phoenix Rises. Killer riff, very gritty, very groovy, driving the song. The drums also help push this track forward, and this is a track that dips it reignites. It loses a little bit steam. It reignites again, making it very dynamic. It doesn't stay still. It doesn't flatline at any given time. Musically, you really feel that constant movement. It's always there. The vocals are a little bit more balanced. The approach seems to be a little bit more uniform from beginning to end, and all the movement that exists within the track is really coming from the sound, a sound that creates aggression, creates intensity, making the track feel very complete. Next, you have Under Surveillance, an absolute banger. It opens up almost like a thrash metal song. It has all the ingredients of a thrash metal song, and then you start to see some of the groove elements coming in, and even some hardcore elements coming in that change ever so slightly the DNA of the track. But this is perhaps one of the most complete tracks in terms of the sound that it has, in terms of how much of the drums you feel. The presence is really powerful on this song, and even the bass. The bass is really noticeable throughout the entire track. And when you have a bass that it's noticeable, and you have a little bit more power on the drums, and you have those changes happening as far as the guitars are concerned, moving from a thrash side into a groove side into a hardcore side, you have a song that feels really robust, that has life, that has a soul, that has a heartbeat. And that's how this song comes across. And then on top of it, you have the perfect vocal delivery to bring the aggression of the lyrics, to bring the theme of the song to life at every single turn. Last but not least, Army of Pigs. Heavy drums on this track, heavier guitars. It really is a song that has this essence of heaviness from beginning to end, and it never really changes. The momentum that it carries, the aggression that exists in the lyrics, it's transmitted into the song itself. It's a track that just really feels together on all fronts. What you get sound-wise is exactly what you're going to get vocally, and it's exactly what's represented in the lyrical content. A track that just has all of the different elements pulling in the same direction at the exact same time. This is it. Confess with Revenge at All Costs, out January 21st on Rexius Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.